In a world that never stops talking, never stops demanding your attention, never stops pulling you in every direction except inward, the ancient Stoics discovered something revolutionary. True power comes not from controlling others, but from mastering yourself. True wisdom comes not from speaking loudest, but from knowing when to remain silent. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote in his private journal, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This emperor, who commanded legions and ruled an empire, understood that his greatest battles were fought not on distant battlefields, but within the confines of his own mind. Today we live in an age of constant noise. Social media screams for our attention. News cycles demand our outrage. Everyone has an opinion, and everyone expects you to have one too. But the Stoics teach us something different. They teach us that in a world of chaos, the person who can maintain inner calm holds the ultimate advantage. They teach us that silence is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Chapter 1. The Foundation of Self-Focus. Understanding the dichotomy of control. The cornerstone of Stoic philosophy rests on a simple yet profound distinction that Epictetus articulated. Some things are within our power, while others are not. This is not merely philosophical theory. This is the blueprint for a life of unshakable peace and effectiveness. What is within your power? Your thoughts, your judgments, your decisions, your responses, your character, your effort, your attention, your values. These are your domain, your kingdom, your responsibility. When you focus your energy here, you become invincible because no external force can touch what is truly yours. What is not within your power? Other people's actions, their opinions, their decisions, the past, the future, natural disasters, economic conditions, political events, other people's success or failure. When you waste energy trying to control these things, you become weak, frustrated, and ineffective. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, confine yourself to the present. The present moment is where your power lies, not in yesterday's regrets or tomorrow's anxieties, but in this moment, this choice, this breath. When you focus on yourself in the present moment, you tap into a source of strength that external circumstances cannot diminish. The practice of self-examination. The Stoics were practitioners, not just philosophers. They developed concrete practices to focus the mind inward. Marcus Aurelius would begin each day by examining his thoughts and intentions. He would end each day by reviewing his actions and responses. This wasn't self-criticism, it was self-mastery. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Each moment offers you a fresh start, a new opportunity to focus on what truly matters. When you catch your mind wandering to things outside your control, to what others are doing, saying, thinking, you can gently but firmly redirect your attention back to your own domain. This practice requires vigilance but not anxiety. Think of it like training a pupil. When a dog wanders off the path, a good trainer doesn't punish. They simply redirect. When your mind wanders from your own business to everyone else's, you don't berate yourself. You simply return your focus to where it belongs. The fortress of the mind. The Stoics often used the metaphor of the mind as an inner citadel, a fortress that, properly defended, cannot be breached by external forces. This fortress is built not with walls of stone, but with walls of wisdom, discipline, and self-knowledge. Every time you resist the urge to control others, you strengthen these walls. Every time you focus on your own improvement rather than others' flaws, you add another layer of protection. Every time you choose your response rather than react impulsively, you prove that you are the master of your own domain. Epictetus, who lived as a slave before becoming one of history's greatest teachers, understood this better than anyone. Though his body was enslaved, his mind remained free because he focused only on what was truly his own. He taught, "No one can harm you without your permission." Chapter 2. The Discipline of Silence. Why silence is strength. In our culture, we've been conditioned to believe that speaking up always equals strength, that having the last word means winning, that silence equals weakness or agreement. The Stoics understood differently. They recognized that silence is often the most powerful response. When someone insults you and you remain silent, You demonstrate that their words have no power over your inner state. When someone tries to draw you into drama and you refuse to engage, you show that you cannot be manipulated. When someone baits you with controversy and you choose not to take the bait, you prove that you are master of your own attention. Seneca observed, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." Every time you speak when you should have remained silent, you learn. Every time you engage when you should have walked away, you understand a little more about the power of restraint. The art of strategic silence. Silence is not passive, it's strategic. The Stoics practiced different types of silence for different purposes. Contemplative silence. Taking time each day to sit quietly with your thoughts, examining your motivations, clarifying your values, and setting your intentions. This is not meditation in the modern sense, but active self-reflection. Responsive silence. When someone speaks to you with anger, criticism, or provocation, responding with silence rather than immediate reaction. This gives you time to choose your response rather than being controlled by their emotion. Protective silence. Refusing to engage in gossip, complaints, or negative conversations that drain your energy and focus your attention on things outside your control. Dignified silence. When insulted or attacked, maintaining your composure and refusing to be drawn into conflict that serves no constructive purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private notes, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." This isn't about being antisocial. It's about being selective with your attention, which is your most precious resource. The wisdom of measured words. When you do speak, let your words carry weight because they are chosen carefully, not scattered carelessly. The Stoics believed that every word should serve a purpose: to educate, to help, to clarify, or to inspire. Words spoken merely to fill silence, to prove your intelligence, or to win arguments serve no one. Epictetus taught his students, "Be silent for the most part, or if you speak, say only what is necessary and in a few words." This doesn't mean being antisocial or unfriendly. It means being intentional with your communication, speaking when you have something valuable to contribute rather than speaking for the sake of being heard. Consider how much energy you waste in unnecessary conversations, defending yourself against criticism that doesn't matter, arguing about topics that won't change, explaining yourself to people who aren't truly listening. That energy could be redirected toward your own growth, your own goals, your own peace of mind. Chapter 3. The Inner Work. Building Unshakable Character. While others focus on external achievements, wealth, status, recognition, power over others, the Stoic focuses on internal development. Character is the only true wealth because it cannot be stolen, lost, or destroyed by external circumstances. Character is built through daily choices. When you choose to respond with patience instead of anger, you strengthen your character. When you choose to work on your own flaws instead of criticizing others, you build character. When you choose to maintain your principles even when it's difficult, you forge character like steel and fire. Marcus Aurelius, despite having unlimited power, spent his private moments working on himself. Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest. Your character is that headland, unmoved by the storms of external circumstances. The practice of negative visualization. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is negative visualization, imagining the loss of things you value. This isn't pessimism, it's preparation. When you regularly contemplate losing your health, your wealth, your relationships, or your reputation, you accomplish two things. You appreciate what you have more deeply, and you prepare yourself mentally for change. This practice keeps you focused on yourself because it reminds you that external things are temporary and fragile. Your peace of mind cannot depend on keeping everything you have forever. Your happiness cannot be hostage to circumstances remaining exactly as they are. Seneca practiced this regularly. Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" By voluntarily experiencing minor discomforts, he prepared himself for major ones and proved to himself that his well-being didn't depend on external luxuries. Emotional regulation and inner freedom. The Stoics understood that emotions are not things that happen to you. They are responses you choose. This doesn't mean suppressing feelings or pretending they don't exist. It means recognizing that between stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space lies your freedom. When someone cuts you off in traffic, the initial flash of irritation might be automatic, but what you do with that irritation is entirely up to you. You can feed it, nurture it, let it ruin your day and affect everyone around you. Or you can observe it, understand it, and choose a different response. This inner work requires constant practice. Every day presents dozens of opportunities to choose your response. The coworker who takes credit for your work, the friend who cancels plans at the last minute, the family member who pushes your buttons, the stranger who is rude in the store. Each situation is a chance to practice self-mastery. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength." This power over your mind is developed through consistent practice, like building muscle through regular exercise. Chapter 4. The liberation from others' opinions. Breaking free from external validation. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is the desperate need for others' approval. We shape our behavior, suppress our authentic selves, and exhaust our energy trying to manage what others think of us. The Stoics recognize this as a form of slavery, allowing others to determine your worth and peace of mind. Epictetus taught, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, make no other answer than, 'He was ignorant of my other faults,' or he would not have mentioned these alone." This response demonstrates complete freedom from the need to defend your reputation or control others' perceptions. When you truly understand that others' opinions of you are outside your control, you experience profound liberation. You can be yourself authentically without constantly calculating how others will react. You can make decisions based on your values rather than others' expectations. You can pursue what matters to you rather than what impresses others. The futility of seeking universal approval. Marcus Aurelius observed, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." The Emperor of Rome understood something that many people never learn. You cannot please everyone, and attempting to do so is not only impossible but destructive to your character and peace of mind. Every moment you spend worrying about someone else's opinion is a moment not spent on your own growth. Every decision you make based on what others will think is a decision that moves you further from your authentic self. Every compromise you make to avoid criticism is a compromise of your integrity. The Stoics practiced a form of selective attention, consciously choosing to focus on the opinions that matter, primarily your own, based on your values, while dismissing those that don't. This isn't arrogance, it's wisdom. It's understanding that your time and mental energy are finite resources that should be invested wisely. Developing internal scorecard. Warren Buffett, though not a Stoic, articulated a concept that aligns perfectly with Stoic wisdom. The difference between an internal scorecard and an external scorecard. Those who live by an external scorecard measure their worth by others' opinion, social status, comparison with peers, and external recognition. Those who live by an internal scorecard measure their worth by their own standards, their progress toward their goals, and their adherence to their values. The Stoics lived by the ultimate internal scorecard. They asked themselves, "Am I living according to my principles? Am I responding to circumstances with wisdom and virtue? Am I growing in character and wisdom?" These questions can only be answered by looking inward, not outward. This doesn't mean being indifferent to feedback or unwilling to learn from others. It means filtering external input through your own judgment rather than accepting it automatically. It means valuing wisdom over popularity, character over reputation, authenticity over approval. Chapter 5. The Power of Detachment. Understanding non-attachment versus indifference. The Stoic concept of detachment is often misunderstood as coldness or indifference. This is incorrect. The Stoics taught passionate engagement with life combined with acceptance of outcomes beyond your control. They cared deeply about many things: justice, virtue, wisdom, relationships. But they held these things lightly, understanding that attachment to specific outcomes leads to suffering. Seneca exemplified this balance. He was deeply involved in politics, business, and relationships, but he regularly reminded himself that all external things are temporary. He could lose his wealth, his position, even his life. But his inner peace didn't depend on keeping these things forever. This detachment allows you to give your best effort without being destroyed by results beyond your control. You can work hard for a promotion while accepting that the decision ultimately isn't yours. You can love deeply while understanding that relationships change. You can pursue goals passionately while holding them lightly. The practice of letting go. Letting go is not a one-time event, but a daily practice. Every day, you face opportunities to practice non-attachment. The email that goes unanswered, the plan that falls through, the person who doesn't respond as you hoped, the outcome that differs from your expectation. Each of these moments is a chance to practice the Stoic response. Acknowledge the disappointment. Accept what you cannot change. Focus on what you can control moving forward. This doesn't mean being passive or giving up easily. It means directing your energy toward effective action rather than wasting it on resistance to reality. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate associates you. He understood that much of life is outside your control, but your response to life is entirely within your control. Freedom through acceptance. Paradoxically, accepting what you cannot control gives you more power, not less. When you stop wasting energy fighting reality, you have more energy available for changing what can be changed. When you stop being victimized by circumstances, you become empowered to respond effectively. This acceptance is not resignation. It's strategic. It's recognizing that some battles cannot be won and others are not worth fighting. It's choosing your battles wisely rather than fighting everything that displeases you. The Stoics understood that suffering comes not from external events, but from our resistance to external events. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. When you accept what cannot be changed, you eliminate unnecessary suffering and create space for effective action. Chapter 6. Practical Applications in Modern Life. Dealing with difficult people. In every life, there are difficult people: the critical boss, the demanding client, the toxic family member, the argumentative neighbor. The typical response is to try to change these people, to argue with them, to defend yourself against their attacks, or to complain about them to others. The Stoic response is radically different. First, recognize that other people's behavior is outside your control. You cannot make someone kinder, more reasonable, or more considerate. You can only control your response to their behavior. This recognition immediately reduces your frustration because you stop attempting the impossible. Second, focus on your own behavior in the interaction. Are you responding with virtue or vice? Are you maintaining your composure or allowing their chaos to disturb your peace? Are you speaking from wisdom or reacting from emotion? Your behavior is your responsibility, regardless of how they behave. Third, extract whatever lesson the situation offers. Difficult people are often our greatest teachers, showing us where we need to grow in patience, understanding, or boundaries. They reveal our own weaknesses and give us opportunities to practice strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Whenever you want to cheer yourself, consider the good qualities of your companions. When this fails, remember that dealing with difficult people is part of the human experience and an opportunity to develop your character." Handling criticism and praise. Both criticism and praise can destabilize your inner peace if you're not prepared for them. The Stoics developed a balanced approach to both. When receiving criticism, ask yourself, is it accurate? If so, thank the person and make the necessary changes. If not, discard it without taking offense. The critic's motivation, whether malicious or well-intentioned, is irrelevant. What matters is whether the criticism contains useful information for your growth. Epictetus taught, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Let your character speak for itself rather than defending your reputation with words. People who know you well will not believe false accusations. People who don't know you well, their opinions shouldn't matter to your peace of mind. When receiving praise, enjoy it briefly, but don't let it inflate your ego or make you dependent on external validation. Remember that the same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow. Your worth is not determined by others' opinions, positive or negative. Managing social media and information overload. The modern world presents challenges the ancient Stoics never faced. constant connectivity, information overload, social media comparison, and 24/7 news cycles. However, Stoic principles apply perfectly to these modern challenges. First, recognize that most information we consume daily is outside our control and doesn't require our emotional investment. Other people's political opinions, lifestyle choices, relationship drama, and personal problems are not your responsibility unless you choose to make them so. Second, practice selective attention. Just as you wouldn't eat everything placed in front of you, don't consume every piece of information available to you. Choose your information diet as carefully as your food diet, focusing on what nourishes your mind and supports your goals. Third, limit your engagement with controversy and drama that doesn't directly affect your life. Every minute spent arguing with strangers online is a minute not spent on your own growth and goals. Every emotional reaction to distant events you cannot influence is energy wasted. Seneca advised, "It is more fitting for a man to laugh at life than to lament over it." Much of what we see on social media and news is theater, not reality. Don't let other people's performances disturb your inner peace. Career and professional challenges. The workplace is a laboratory for Stoic practice. Colleagues compete for recognition. Bosses make unreasonable demands. Projects fail despite your best efforts. And organizations make decisions that seem illogical or unfair. The Stoic approach is to focus on what you can control: your work quality, your professional relationships, your skills development, your integrity, and your response to challenges. You cannot control whether you get promoted, whether your ideas are accepted, or whether your company succeeds. But you can control whether you do your best work regardless of recognition. This approach actually makes you more successful professionally because you're not wasting energy on office politics, complaints, or attempts to control outcomes. You're focused on performance, growth, and value creation, the things that truly matter in any career. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, regularly reminded himself that his position was temporary and that his character was more important than his title. He wrote, "Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." Chapter 7. The Daily Practice. Morning Reflection. The Stoics began each day with intention. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself of the challenges he might face and prepare mentally for how he would respond with virtue. This wasn't pessimism, it was preparation. Start your day by reviewing your goals, your values, and your priorities. Remind yourself that you cannot control what happens to you today, but you can control how you respond. Set an intention to focus on your own behavior, your own growth, and your own peace of mind. Consider the day ahead and identify potential challenges. Difficult conversations, stressful situations, opportunities for frustration or anger. Mentally rehearse responding to these challenges with patience, wisdom, and self-control. This preparation makes it more likely that you'll respond well when the actual challenges arise. Evening review. End each day by examining your thoughts, actions, and responses. Where did you focus on things outside your control? Where did you speak when silence would have been wiser? Where did you react emotionally instead of responding thoughtfully? This review is not for self-criticism, but for self-improvement. Like an athlete reviewing game film, you're looking for patterns to improve. Celebrate the moments when you responded well, and learn from the moments when you didn't. Seneca wrote, "When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing for myself, passing nothing by." This daily practice of honest self-examination is essential for growth. Ongoing mindfulness. Throughout the day, practice returning your attention to the present moment and to your own sphere of control. When you find yourself worrying about future events, gently redirect your attention to what you can do today. When you find yourself dwelling on past mistakes, focus on what you can learn and how you can do better going forward. When you catch yourself trying to control others' behavior, remind yourself that this is impossible and redirect your energy to controlling your own behavior. When you notice yourself getting drawn into drama or controversy, step back and ask whether this deserves your mental energy. This ongoing practice of attention management is perhaps the most important Stoic skill. Your attention is your most precious resource, and where you direct it determines the quality of your life. Chapter 8. Advanced Stoic practices. The view from above. Marcus Aurelius regularly practiced an exercise he called the view from above, imagining himself from a cosmic perspective, seeing his problems and concerns from the vastness of space and time. This practice puts daily struggles in perspective and reminds us that most of what we worry about is relatively insignificant in the grand scheme of existence. When you're stressed about a deadline, angry about traffic, or worried about someone's opinion of you, imagine viewing the situation from space. How much will this matter in 10 years? How much does it matter in the context of human history? This isn't about dismissing your concerns, but about putting them in proper perspective. This practice also reminds you that you are part of something larger than yourself, that your actions and character contribute to the whole of humanity. This can inspire you to act with greater virtue and wisdom, knowing that your behavior affects not just yourself, but the broader human community. Memento mori. The Stoics regularly contemplated mortality, not to be morbid, but to appreciate life more fully and to prioritize what truly matters. When you remember that your time is limited, you become more selective about how you spend it. You're less likely to waste energy on trivial concerns and more likely to focus on what brings meaning and fulfillment. This practice also reduces fear. When you accept that death is natural and inevitable, you become less attached to outcomes and more focused on living well in each moment. You realize that the only real failure is failing to live according to your values while you have the chance. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." Each day is both an ending and a beginning, an opportunity to live well regardless of how much time remains. Voluntary discomfort. The Stoics regularly practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on the floor, eating simple food, walking in bad weather, or giving up small luxuries temporarily. This wasn't masochism, but preparation. By voluntarily experiencing minor discomforts, they prepared themselves for involuntary major ones. This practice also reveals how little you actually need to be content. Most of our daily stress comes from attachment to comfort and convenience. When you prove to yourself that you can be happy with less, you become more resilient and less dependent on external circumstances for your well-being. Modern applications might include taking cold showers, walking instead of driving when possible, eating simple meals occasionally, or giving up certain luxuries for set periods. The goal is not suffering but strength, proving to yourself that your happiness doesn't depend on constant comfort. Chapter 9. The Transformation. From reactive to responsive. The greatest transformation that comes from Stoic practice is a shift from being reactive to being responsive. Most people live reactively. Emotions triggered by external events, behavior determined by circumstances, peace of mind dependent on things outside their control. The practicing Stoic learns to respond rather than react. Between stimulus and response, they create a pause, a moment of choice where they can decide how to handle the situation based on their values rather than their impulses. This pause is where freedom lives. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires consistent practice, regular self-examination, and patience with yourself as you develop new mental habits. But the results are profound. Increased peace of mind, better relationships, more effective action, and greater resilience in the face of challenges. From external focus to internal focus. Another major transformation is the shift in focus from external to internal. Instead of constantly monitoring others' behavior, opinions, and success, you focus on your own growth, values, and actions. Instead of trying to control outcomes, you focus on controlling your effort and response. This shift eliminates most sources of stress and frustration because you stop attempting the impossible, controlling others and external events, and start focusing on what's actually possible, controlling yourself. You become less comparative and more focused on your own path. The energy you previously wasted on worry, criticism, and control attempts becomes available for productive use. Personal growth, meaningful relationships, creative pursuits, and contribution to others. You become more effective because your energy is focused rather than scattered. From victim to agent. Perhaps the most profound transformation is a shift from feeling like a victim of circumstances to recognizing yourself as an agent of your own life. Circumstances may be outside your control, but your response to circumstances is entirely within your control. This doesn't mean denying that bad things happen or that some people face greater challenges than others. It means recognizing that regardless of your circumstances, you retain the power to choose your attitude, your effort, and your character. This power cannot be taken away unless you surrender it. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." This is the ultimate Stoic insight. External freedom may be limited, but internal freedom is always available. In a world that rewards the loudest voices, the most dramatic reactions, and the most public displays of opinion, the Stoic finds strength in silence and power in self-focus. This is not withdrawal from life, but deeper engagement with what truly matters. When you focus on yourself, your character, your responses, your growth, your values, you discover that you have more influence than you imagined. But it's influence of a different kind. Instead of trying to control others through force, manipulation, or argument, you influence through example. Instead of seeking power over circumstances, you develop power over yourself. This inner work is the most challenging work you'll ever do, but it's also the most rewarding. Every day presents opportunities to practice. The difficult conversation, the unexpected setback, the moment of temptation, the choice between comfort and growth. Each situation is a chance to prove to yourself that you are the master of your own mind. The Stoics understood that life is short, circumstances are unpredictable, and other people's behavior is beyond your control. But they also understood that within these constraints lies tremendous freedom. The freedom to choose who you become, how you respond, and what kind of person you are regardless of what happened around you. This is the ultimate goal of Stoic practice. Not to control the world, but to become uncontrollable by the world. Not to eliminate all problems, but to develop the strength to handle any problem. Not to avoid all pain, but to find meaning and growth in whatever pain life brings. When you achieve this, even imperfectly, even temporarily, you discover something remarkable. You find that you no longer need others to behave a certain way for you to be at peace. You no longer need external circumstances to align perfectly for you to be content. You no longer need constant validation, agreement, or approval to maintain your sense of worth. This is true freedom, not the ability to do whatever you want, but the ability to maintain your inner peace regardless of what happens. This is true strength, not the power to force others to comply with your wishes, but the power to remain unshaken when they don't. The path is not easy. It requires daily discipline, constant vigilance, and the courage to look honestly at yourself. It means accepting responsibility for your own happiness instead of blaming others for your unhappiness. It means focusing on your own flaws instead of others' mistakes. It means choosing growth over comfort, wisdom over popularity, character over reputation. But the rewards are beyond measure. Peace of mind that doesn't depend on external circumstances. Relationships based on authenticity rather than neediness. Achievement that comes from genuine effort rather than manipulation. Self-respect that comes from living according to your values rather than others' expectations. Most importantly, you become useful to others in ways you never imagined. When you're not controlled by your own emotions, you can help others with theirs. When you're not seeking constant validation, you can give genuine support. When you're not trying to control everyone around you, you can accept them as they are and help them become who they want to be. This is the paradox of Stoic practice. By focusing on yourself, you become more valuable to others. By seeking to control less, you influence more. By speaking less, your words carry more weight. By staying silent in the face of provocation, you demonstrate strength that no amount of arguing could achieve. The ancient Stoics developed these practices in times of war, political upheaval, slavery, and persecution. They proved that inner peace is possible regardless of external circumstances, that character can be maintained under any pressure, that wisdom can flourish in any environment. Today's challenges are different but not greater. The principles remain the same, and their power remains unchanged. In a world of constant noise, the person who can maintain inner silence holds tremendous advantage. In a culture of outrage and reaction, The person who can respond thoughtfully stands out. In an age of distraction, the person who can focus on what truly matters becomes extraordinarily effective. Start today. Start now. Start with this moment, this breath, this choice. Ask yourself, what is within my control right now? What deserves my attention and energy? How can I respond to this situation in a way that reflects my values rather than my impulses? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. The transformation of a lifetime begins with a single moment of choosing yourself over circumstances, wisdom over emotion, character over convenience. Focus on yourself. Stay silent when silence serves you better than speech. Control what you can control and let go of what you cannot. In doing so, you'll discover strength you didn't know you possessed, peace you thought was impossible, and influence you never imagined. This is not the end of the teaching, but the beginning of the practice. The words end here, but the work begins now. Every moment from this point forward is an opportunity to prove these principles true in your own life, to discover for yourself the power of focusing inward while the world focuses outward. The Stoics await your company on this ancient path that leads not to a destination, but to a way of traveling. The journey itself becomes the reward when you learn to walk it with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. The four cardinal virtues that transform not just individuals, but the world itself. In the silence between words, in the space between stimulus and response, in the pause before reaction. There you will find your power. There you will find yourself. There you will find the peace that surpasses all understanding and the strength that cannot be shaken by any storm. Focus on yourself. Stay silent. Let your character speak louder than your words. And let your inner peace become the foundation from which all your actions flow. This is the Stoic way. This is the path to true freedom. This is your invitation to join the ranks of those who have discovered that the greatest victory is victory over oneself. The time for reading is over. The time for practice begins now.